So in this video we're going to look at selecting and navigating in Pro Tools. We're going to look at navigating a session with the universal view, recognizing the difference between a timeline selection and edit selection, mark and adjust selection in and out points, use the tab key to navigate a track playlist, adjust the session view for different needs, and add, delete and work with marker memory locations. So I have my track, and at the very top here I have something called the universal view. So the universal view is displayed at the top of the edit window, and it shows a sort of a miniature representation of all the material in a track. I can, if I was to sort of drag, you can see that I can drag from beginning to end, and also up and down if I needed to. If I was just to sort of make all these larger, I can drag up and down as well. So it will show me the current selection. So as I zoom out now, you'll see the universal view just showing me the current selection. If I was to indeed select and zoom in on a track, it would just show me what I'm seeing at that point. And it can be helpful just for quick navigation through a track, rather than trying to do it through the timeline. So we can move and scroll using the universal view, and we can click as well to jump to locations. We can pick it up or click to jump. So that's the universal view. Types of selection. There's two types of selection. We can make a timeline selection, so that's made in the time-based ruler and used to set a playback or record region, or an edit selection, which is made on a track, used to set an edit region. So a timeline selection, if I was to make a timeline selection, if I click in my minutes and seconds, this track incidentally wasn't recorded to the grid, it was just so it wasn't recorded to a click track, so I'm just using minutes and seconds rather than bars and beats. So if I select, you can see I get the blue arrows. If I just click a point, I get two blue arrows, but if I click and hold and drag, I can select a region. So the selection now is indicated by the blue timeline in and out point, like so. I can adjust these as well. I can pick up the ends and I get the finger and I can make them larger and smaller. I mean, really, when I'm sort of working like this, I need to sort of be zoomed in a little bit more so I can make more accurate edit points. I can see the waveforms, so I just use the zoom tool there just to zoom in. That was a single zoom selection, so it just does it once, and then it goes back to the usual tools, and then I can edit more accurately like so. And I can see down here my start and end points, and also the length of the selection on my transport bar here. You can also see that up here as well. So that's a timeline selection. If I wanted an edit selection, I can, I've got all three tools selected, so if I just click in an audio file and say just select that region there. So rather than select the timeline, I can select, click and hold and drag and select on a track. So that's using the selector tool, which is this one. The other thing I can do is I can using the selector tool, I can click and hold and drag, or I can click a start point and shift click the end point to create the selection. So creating separate timeline selections and edit selections. So the timeline and edit selections are linked by default, as you can see. So if I select in the timeline, it selects that region in the edit window, or if I select on the track, select a region, it also selects it on the timeline. But I can unlink it. So for example, if I want to loop a region and just edit within that region, I can unlink it using this tool here. So this is the link timeline and edit selection. So if I click on it now, it's unlinked. And what I mean is, you can see that there's my region, and within that region I get these two orange markers now, and I can select within a region. And also it's just selected that part rather than all the tracks. If I wanted to say select that on that track and then select this here, then I can, by shift clicking, select the regions on different tracks. And if I just actually zoom out, if I was to create a region there and shift click, it would create the same region on whichever track I click on. I'm shift clicking, like so. So if I do that, it selects them all on adjacent regions, but if I then turn this function off, I can use that then to select non-adjacent regions. Next to that, then we have enable link track and edit selection. So with that one, if I just click on a nameplate of a track, if I was to also turn that off, so I can select whole regions like so by clicking the track or the nameplate on the track. And another function that's very popular is using the tab key. So if I just go to the top of the track and just zoom in on these drums, excuse me, like that, and make that medium, and click that right at the front there where that drum hit is, and if I hit the tab key, it analyzes the waveform, and that's better, and it jumps through another useful function is using the tab key. So I have drums here, I just put my pointer there, and if I hit the tab key, it'll tab to transient, the tab to transient's on, so it'll tab to transient, or it will tab through clip boundaries. If I option tab, it goes back to the previous point, and if I shift tab, it'll select boundaries. So here I have one continuous audio file, but if I had boundaries, if I had clip files, it would be selecting each of those as I go. So that was the tab to transient that I had on. This is very popular with drum replacement. This one here, tab to transient, and that then tabs to each transient peak in the waveform. And as I just demonstrated, option tab goes back and shift tab selects, and option shift tab selected all before it. So often option shift tab selects backwards. Track height selectors. There's track height selectors here, but I tend to click here and I can adjust individual track sizes, and if I go to option and click, I can do that globally on all tracks without the need to select all the tracks. Do it like that. So I can adjust the track size, which can be very, very useful when you want to zoom in quickly. If you're doing a lot of editing or close-in editing, fit to window is very useful. We've got a zoom function here. Oh, actually, before I do that, we can change the track order by clicking and dragging the tracks like so, and you'll see you'll get an orange line which will move it below that orange line, or which I prefer is going over to the tracks region over here and just doing it here. Sometimes find that a bit easier. The zoom tool, we can have, if we click and hold, we can have single zoom or normal zoom. So single zoom is just that, one zoom, and then we go back to our editing tools. Normal zoom will mean that it will stay on as the zoom tool. And if I double click the zoom tool, I zoom out like so. So that's the zoom tool. We also have the zoom functions here. So we have horizontal zoom in and out. We've got an audio waveform zoom. This is the MIDI zoom in and out, and that's the horizontal zoom in. So horizontal zoom out, horizontal zoom in, waveform zoom, MIDI zoom, and also at the bottom then we have presets, so we can save zoom presets. So I'm going to do something extreme, fit to window, click and hold, save zoom preset, double click to sort of zoom out, and then go back to that to go back to the zoom preset. Let's just go back to small. Oh, didn't seem to save. Never mind. Now let's just try that again. Let's just try extreme window and zoom right in, and then save that as a preset. No, it didn't seem to like it. Must be doing something wrong. So go to recall zoom preset. No, never mind. Add in markers. We can add markers. There's the marker timeline here, along the timeline. So add in markers. We can add markers here, and if I go to window and memory locators, and bring up this window. Markers are a great way to easily and quickly navigate a project. I can punch markers in on the fly. If I have a numeric keyboard, so a keyboard with a number pad to the right, and I hit enter on that numeric keyboard, it will put markers in for me on the fly. Otherwise, I have to use the plus sign here. And you can see it puts a marker in here, and in my marker window I could name it, and I've already got a marker at the start when the guitar comes in, when the chorus comes in. Actually it's a verse. So now if I click start, it will play from there. If I click guitar, then it plays from there, and if I click verse, it plays from there. If I need to move them slightly, I can pick them up and drag them left or right, clicking and holding. As you can see, I've just, rather than come right in on, so where the guitar comes in, I come in a little bit before. This is a bit of pre-roll, but you can add pre-roll to it anyway. So that's how to add markers, and how to bring up the memory locate window, so Windows memory locations. We can delete them. I think just backspace. Thought we could delete them by just backspacing. Let's go to start, memory, and clear start. So that's that disclosure triangle here. And that's gone. I wanted to put one back in before it starts.